Welcome back to my channel. Before I go into this next story that I want to share with you guys, a funny dating story, at least I think it's funny, I want to give a personal shout out to my 3 community members who have been community members of my channel now for several months each. Thank you, Tom, thank you, Bruno, and thank you, Sean, for being community members. Thank you for your loyalty and your support. Of course, all of you guys, all my subscribers, I thank you for being a part of this community with me and always commenting and sharing videos and all that stuff. By the way, please don't stop. Sharing is caring. The more you guys share, the more you leave comments, the more it kind of like boosts my YouTube algorithmic value, I guess, which helps new people come into the channel. New people then see my channel, and my goal is to hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of this month. And this is a lofty goal, but I want to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. I feel like 10K is when you really start to get like traction. And I have some ideas on how to get there. I have some new content ideas, but I have to first make sure it's doable before I talk about it. You know, I'd rather show than tell, if you get my drift. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about with the community membership thing, basically it's a step up above subscribing. If you become a community member of my channel, you get extra perks. They get videos much earlier than everybody else. They get posts that only members see on my channel, a badge in the comment section that points out that they are community members. There's all these different perks. You can get more info on the join button on my channel. Okay, enough of this infomercial nonsense. I want to tell you guys this story. And by the way, lately, I've had multiple date story videos. I don't know what's happening. Suddenly your boy is in demand. Shocker, this never happens. Yeah, I've been going on a few dates lately, all from apps. I know. Nothing new there. But I met this guy from Tinder, by the way. So this guy in person was awkward, but endearing awkward. I feel like there's 2 types of awkward, right? There's like awkward to the point where you feel uncomfortable and it's like pulling teeth, you know, like there's just no chemistry, no conversation. You're forcing a conversation, right? And then there's awkward, like geeky awkward, right? He was very dorky, but I found it very endearing. And I guess you guys talk about this sometimes in the comments, like it changes everything in terms of bias if you're actually attracted to the person, right? When they have these quirks. So I'm aware that that's a piece of it. He has, I mean, he's still alive. He has very curly hair, and the whole time when he would have these awkward moments, I just wanted to run my hands through his hair. But yeah, awkward in an endearing way. Like at one point he was like, tell me some fun facts about you. Like, it's just a silly thing to ask on a date, but I thought he was sweet, genuine, kind, and it's palpable, right? You can feel when somebody has no agenda. They're just dorky in the best way possible. And also, I will take responsibility. Some of the awkwardness was my fault because I picked the place, which is kind of like a speakeasy vibe, but I hadn't been there in a while, and the speakeasy elements are not as strong there as they used to be. For example, the lighting was not as dim as it had once been. Also, more awkwardly, it was empty. It was a Tuesday night, but it was empty. I'm talking, we were the only ones there. So you know, when you're on a date and you're the only patrons there, and it's not just a date, but it's a gay date, you know? It's like you just feel more self-conscious. We're sitting at this booth, you know, looking at each other, talking, and it takes a very charismatic person, I think, to not have any kind of awkwardness on a date like that. So anyway, partially my fault for sure, and he was a good sport about it. He had never been there, so he wanted to check it out. So anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is just that he was, you know, dorky and awkward, and I wasn't like sold, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, it's not a slam dunk date, but I'm enjoying talking to him. He's nice enough, and again, I loved that curly hair, and I was thinking like, okay, I think I would see him again if he's open to it, but difficult to read because he wasn't very like touchy-feely or anything. Not that I expected, but you know, it's always nice when somebody gives you those cues on a first date, right? So anyway, we had a glass of wine, and then he had driven there, so he said, do you want me to drive you home? And I said, sure. And you guys, in the car, within, I would say 30 seconds, he puts his hand on my leg and he goes, so Do I get a second date? I was so turned on by that intimacy, that cheekiness of saying like, you know, did I prove myself to get a second date? And the whole way home, which was like, I don't know, 5 minutes, he kept his hand on my leg. So I'm digging it, and of course I said, yeah, I would love to see you again, great meeting you, blah, blah, blah. I confessed to him that I had been wanting to run my hands through his hair the whole time, and he allowed me as he's driving. So now it's getting sexy, right? And then we arrive at my place, and he goes in for the kiss. You guys, it was one of the best kisses I've ever had. Like very sensual, very intimate, very passionate. His hand is still on my leg, the other hand is like grabbing my face. And then we kept kissing for a few minutes. So I went home happy as can be. But the point for me is like, it's so funny that this guy was kind of awkward on the date. There was zero physical interaction. And then we get into his car and he has this whole other side to him that was very sensual, very warm, which makes me think it's an instinct thing, right? That on the date, even though there was this awkwardness, I liked him and I found him endearing. So it's funny, like you can feel something from the person, even if they're not vocalizing that they're that way or physically showing you that way. It's still like a feeling. So in retrospect, I must have felt that there was potential with that. But it's just so funny to me this is not the first guy I've met who in person is kind of like, maybe even a little bit aloof, difficult to read, and then you get them alone and you see this whole other side to them that's very sexy. And it makes me wonder, is that a gay thing? Because he told me that he's bi and he's newish, just the last few years exploring stuff with guys. So I wonder if it's like a discomfort of being in public showing PDA, you know, public display of affection with another guy, or if it's just there's a lot of men like that who in public are kind of reserved and it's a learned behavior, right? Men are taught to be kind of cold and aloof and, you know, keep your poker face on. It could be cultural. There's a million things it could be, right? But it's just so fascinating to me to go from that. The juxtaposition was very sexy to me. Then in the car, it's just this whole other side. And who would think that a guy who's so kind of like awkward and dorky could be an amazing kisser and have an amazing touch? It's so fascinating. So anyway, we'll see what'll happen. We've been talking, texting. We'll probably meet a second time. But I feel like this is how dating is supposed to be, right? Like lighthearted, casual, go with the flow. I don't feel pressure to make this happen. I didn't feel that I had that much in common with him, but I'm curious about him. I feel like that's how dating is supposed to be. You're curious, you take it from there, and you see what happens. If nothing else, I got an amazing kiss on a Tuesday night, on a school night, on a weeknight. That's good enough for me.